to explore old abandoned structures that is alleged to be haunted, such as mental asylum, churches, you name it. It's always a big thrill for many urban explorers and other people. But in our town, there is at least one structure that is said to be haunted. But I won't give you exact location for two reasons. One is to keep our privacy, and two, the structure isn't even there anymore. It has been demolished for a while now. But like I said, this particular structure was a really well known in our community for a very long time. My name is Tommy, and this happened some years ago when I was just about 20 years old. And I have to say, I'm a strong believer in a paranormal. Always been, always will be. But me and my girlfriend Sarah, and my best friend Riley and his girlfriend Mary, the four of us had always been, well, have always been a strong believers in the paranormal. We always traveled around in our town or maybe to other state to explore alleged haunted places. Not because forget the thrill of it, just to put our own experience, but also be able to capture some of it on camera to prove that the people that in fact the paranormal is real and not a hoax. And like I said, this alleged haunted house or structure outside our town had been these rumors for decades. One day, when it was just me and Riley at my house, we were just talking about our, well, the most recent episode of Ghost Adventures, our favorite series of all time within the paranormal series. Just saying it. But we were talking about some old abandoned places we have been to. But there was always one structure that we always want to go to see. And that was the one outside of our hometown. So Riley told me to do some research in this place. To be honest, do me even wonder why was the one also doing it and him not himself? Well, I've always been the type of been reading a lot. So I was like, sure, I will give you any other some more evidence or at least more background of this place on Friday, since we were planning on going there on the Friday. And this was like early in the week. So we agreed. So throughout the week, I did as much intense research as possible about this place. I talked to some, well, acquaintances, friends from school, even some neighbors, and even went to the library. And I even visited some of my old relatives that lived in this retirement home and even talked to some other people there if they have any experience or if they have any knowledge about this place. And I learned a lot of things. And on Friday, as we were standing by our cars, at least my car, near the place, this was around in the early afternoon, and it was getting a bit dark, but Riley said, "So, Tommy, did you manage to find any information about this place?" "Oh, you betcha. A lot of it, actually. Um, you have no idea how many people I asked so much questions about this place." "Really?" "Yeah, to be honest, trying to find something like this online, well, it was almost non-existent. I managed to find just a few articles, but those were very vague of information." "Okay, well, so what can you tell us about this place?" "Well, as we know, that has been around there for years, like decades. Turns out this was an old, it was originally a farm. Well, I wouldn't say a farm since it's located in the middle of the woods, but it was kind of a farmstead, a homestead in the early, I would say, 1920s. So that long ago, yeah. It had been passing down to several owners since. During the first few years after it was constructed, was nothing much happened. Some of the owners died of natural causes, old age, and but then, but then, sometime in the 1980s, something really dark happened. Really. Well, since sometimes I think it was 1985 or 86, if I remember right about that, a new owner bought this place, but it wasn't used for any homestead or anything. It was mostly contained for gatherings, and not the good kind. And according to rumors, and well, mostly of older people from the retirement home that I asked around about, it turned out that that place was a gathering place for a satanic cult in the 80s. Wow. Yeah, that was the same reaction I had when I first heard about it. So, what else? Did they sacrifice people there? Were they murdered people? Not really killing people, but people who lived in the area heard often chanting and even screams of animals that, like, blood curdling scream. And often when the police got a report about this, but it wasn't like to near the end of 1980s, I think it was around 1989 or so, when the police had gone to received tons of reports of the nearby people of finding not only that some of the livestock had been missing, goats, sheep, and even rabbits in some cases, and even chickens had been found missing. And the people, well, they blamed for this occult being in this place, and turns out they were all on spot on. Whoa. Yeah, they took the animals from those farms and to use as animal sacrifice. And eventually the police had enough of this, so they eventually got there, managed to arrest at least 10 people. It was just about 10 people, but ever since then, no one even dared to won't even buy the place. It had been on the market for many times, but the price has been lowered several times. But even as the lowest as the last time I went for it was like, I don't know, like $500 for a whole place, a whole property. But due to the fact of the memory of a satanic cult that been there, sacrificed animals for a number of years, it really affected the house value. And now I think the house is pretty much free to take if anyone wants to. But that is the only thing. But then I managed to figure out, at least to find out one thing. What? Riley asked, now more curious. Well, one of the satanic members that was arrested did make a statement on her deathbed. Really? Yeah, at least from what I heard based on rumors, is that on the final night when they were caught, they were trying to summon something really dark, like a demon or something. And according to them, or at least according to her, well, based on the rumor, they managed, or at least allegedly. And this demon stood in front of them, but it turns out some of the members started to getting second thoughts of this, and they wanted to stop this and send it back where it came from. But some of the members didn't want to. But they think they managed to do so, but ever since then, Well, who knows, based on the rumors. So I don't know for fact if that's real or not, Tommy said. I mean, considering of how many other things happened there. I mean, and also some of my older relatives who had been there, well, let's say from this they actually heard some scraping sounds on the walls, on the outside, inside, cold drafts, and one of my cousins swear that he heard something whisper in his ear, but no one else heard it, saying, "My home." That gave everyone the chills. Ugh, do you think we should even be there then? Well, yeah, I mean, I wanted to see it though. But I told them we had to at least explore this. We had talked about this for a long time now, right? So both Sarah and even Mary were starting having a second thoughts about this. I mean, should we even do it? But then I told them, listen, this is our only and last chance to do so. What do you mean? Asked Riley. Well, I heard from my dad that they are planning to demolish the whole place and turn it into back the forest by planting new trees there. What? So you're saying this is our final and only chance to explore this alleged haunted place? You bet it. Girls, we had to at least explore this place. I mean, if we had explored other places that was much darker history to than this. Both Sarah and Mary looked at each other and nodded and said, all right, since it's our only chance. So we went there. We went there, and this was around, say, I think 4 p.m. The sun was just about in the horizon. We did bring us flashlights just in case, because we didn't know, in fact, when we were going to be there, if it's going to be still early afternoon or in the evening. I did once suggest, how about midnight? But Sarah and Mary were, well, they weren't keen about the idea, and now they would even have done it otherwise. But we went there. Since it used to be a big homestead, but most of the other structures was long gone. Surprising enough, only the house itself was still there. Well, at least most of it. Some of the roof had caved in. Some of the walls was really bad condition. Like some of the walls had looked to be either falling out from the side. So even though I started getting my second thoughts, or even if it was safe enough to even explore the house, but we agreed to at least go inside. But I said, second floor, the upstairs floor is off limits to all of us. Based on the condition of the house, especially that the house roof had caved in, and since it's been around for, well, for almost 100 years, it's not saying that how well this roof or floor upstairs is, since no one has even been taking care of this place for over 100 years or so. We all agreed. So we started walking around, and this place didn't even have a basement. So that was a little bit downfall for us. But we separated. This place downstairs had at least a big living room area, a kitchen, and a bathroom, and one spare room. We split up in two teams. We explored, but there wasn't much anything happened. Even though that Riley wanted to go upstairs, but I told him when he was about almost stepping on the staircase, don't do it. Because the staircase may be in such bad rotten wood. And you really don't want to take that chance, do you? I can see that Riley was giving a thought of that and decided it wasn't worth the risk. But as we all were standing there, we heard this scratching sound like if someone was scratching nails or claws. We all turned, looking around. By now the time it was a bit dark, so we used our flashlights. We putting out every directions in a haste, but nothing. But that didn't even make the sound stop. It continued and was getting louder. The girl was starting to get scared. But then, I thought that I was the only one, but at first I heard a voice said, and I was getting much of a chill. I was like, did you guys hear that? Hear what? And then suddenly, it went quiet. Totally quiet. For only a brief moment when I heard a big, booming voice, like almost demonic, saying, leave this house. And we just bolted out. We didn't have a second thought to even stay there any second longer. But for some reason, I stopped, turned, and I swear, I saw two red eyes by the door entrance. Since it was now a little bit dark outside, and since this house didn't have any electricity anymore or anything, but I swear, I saw these two fiery red eyes looking at me. But the thing is, it was way too tall for a person. Unless you were standing on something, but this eyes was at least nearly 7 feet tall. But I only took one quick photo of my camera and bolted to the car. Even on the ride home, we didn't say anything. But it wasn't a couple of days later after we learned the house was now demolished. And we did go there about a week later. Everything was gone. There was no sign of the place has even been a homestead. The ground has been completely covered with new fresh dirt. New trees have been planted. And it's nothing like had never been there. I never mentioned on the photo because I almost forgot about it, but when we went there, I'm like, wait. And I managed to take out my phone, and sure enough, the photo was still there, and that gave us the chill. You may think that stopped us from ever to do exploring haunted places ever again. No. We still continue to do that ever since, but we made sure to make a thorough research of the place, and also to make sure the place isn't that bad, so that it would cause any harm or anything. People have told us to simply forget doing this and just simply do something more better. But we like to do it, but we are more cautious by now. Thank you everyone for listening to the story. Thank you.